Hey, JulesBlessedVegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. So this is part 2 on talking about sugar, and I'm sure I have other videos on sugar, but yesterday I was talking about sugar and referencing Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which a lot of you guys figured out. Great job. And of course, my little sister, who watches my videos, which is a blessing. I mean, who doesn't want a family member to watch, right? She had to say, you know what, Juliana, get on with it. Just get on with it. Like, why do you have to evaluate all this stuff and try and figure out how you're affected by sugar? Everybody has like something, some little, effect of whatever you want to label yourself as. She's really into that, telling me not to label myself. She's just like, maybe you should just get on with the wellness straight up. She's a straight up kind of gal, and health is her hobby, if you will. I would argue that it's her profession, right? Because it makes her livelihood. But anyway, little sissy, never too young for me to learn from. Thank you so much for your thoughts. It's coming. My freedom from this oppression is coming. We just process things differently, but I love your input. All right, people. So this is part 2, and I have a great article, a fantastic article called The Amazing Similarities Between This Toxic Sugar and Alcohol. And of course, I'll include it in the description of the video. Really important talk. So it says, you may already be aware that fructose, the sugar found in everything from high fructose corn syrup and fruit juice to agave syrup and honey, is harmful when consumed in excess, which is exactly what many, if not most, Americans do. However, you may be surprised to learn that fructose, in many ways, is very similar to alcohol in the damage they can do to your body. And I absolutely, back when I used to drink, which was forever ago, I recognized that my body processed alcohol the same way it did sugar. The effect was exactly the same, so I so get that. So it says, while you may already be exercising caution by not over-consuming alcoholic beverages, it may be time to take a closer look at the equally potentially damaging effects associated with your intake of sodas, fruit juice, and other fructose-sweetened foods, as well as drinks. And I so get that, right? I mean, people say, that's weird. I only have drinks. I barely eat anything. It's amazing how those drinks can add up, right? And then how about that, where all I had was Diet Coke, about 20 of them, but they're 0 calories. That's true. And 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 is nothing. I get that. The problem is the trauma on your body. And your body's so busy trying to figure out how to deal with the toxic waste that it cannot do all the other processes that it needs to do, right? Yeah, that's a talk for another day. But I was thinking about that. Remember, and you guys are probably too young, but I'm going to remember anyway, Tab Cola. So cute. Came in a bright pink can with really great lettering, white letters. And that what was cute was at one point the cans actually had a waist, like it dipped in the center like a waist. Do you remember that at all? I know the song. Hold on. Tab Cola, what a beautiful drink. Tab Cola for beautiful people. Tab Cola, you're beautiful to me. 16 ounces and just 1 calorie. Wow, it had a calorie. So it was considered a food, right? I wonder if they did that on purpose. To be considered a food, it has to have 1 calorie, but that allowed them to sell it and process it in a whole different way. I was just remembering. But it was only for beautiful people. So if you were drinking Tab, you were instantly beautiful. How great is that? Right? Anyway, all right. So fructose has 3 major similarities to alcohol. Unlike glucose, which can be used by virtually every cell in the body. Did you hear that? Glucose, your sugar in your blood, the thing they check for diabetes, prediabetes, etc. The glucose can actually be used by every cell in the body. Super important. Whereas fructose can only be metabolized by your liver. And that's because your liver is the only organ that has a transporter for it. God's so smart. He totally arranged all of these things going on in the body, and certain ones can only go here and be admitted there and be exited here, and it's just so smart. It's insane. So that one is literally a transporter that only fits in this direction and goes to the liver. It's so brilliant. You know, you can study one function of the body for your entire career and still not master your knowledge of it. That's how phenomenal the human body is. Wow. And even more so the maker of it. Okay, so since all fructose gets shuttled to your liver, and if you eat a typical Western style standard American diet, you consume high amounts of it, fructose ends up taxing and damaging your liver in the same way alcohol and other toxins do. In fact, fructose is virtually identical to alcohol with regard to the metabolic havoc it wreaks. And I'm finding that to be true. I mean, I literally know little 9 and 10-year-olds who have fatty liver syndrome, which used to only be from consuming alcohol. And now little children have that. They've never consumed alcohol in their life. Okay, so according to Dr. Lustig, who works for the University of California, fructose is, let's hear this, chronic, dose-dependent liver toxin. It is a chronic dose-dependent. So depending on how much you subject your liver to, toxin. And just like alcohol, fructose is metabolized directly into fat, not cellular energy like glucose. I still get that. I'm wearing a bunch of fructose. I should have just worn a fructose costume for Halloween. Yes, it's going away, but I was really blessed. I'm wearing a fructose suit as we speak. Okay. He discussed this topic in the video. Again, you can reference it later. And wrote this paper that was published in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. He explains the 3 similarities between fructose and its fermentation byproduct, which is ethanol. And I think they use ethanol in cars, right? It's derived from corn syrup. Okay, number 1, your liver's metabolism of fructose is similar to alcohol, as they both serve as substrates for converting dietary carbohydrate into fat, which promotes insulin resistance, dyslipidemia, which is the abnormal fat levels in the bloodstream, and fatty liver. Let's say that one more time. Your liver's metabolism of fructose is similar to alcohol, as they both serve as substrates for converting dietary carbohydrate into fat, which promotes insulin resistance, dyslipidemia, which is the abnormal fat levels in the bloodstream, and fatty liver. Number 2, fructose undergoes the Maillard reaction with proteins, leading to the formation of superoxide free radicals that can result in liver inflammation, similar to acetaldehyde, which is an intermediary metabolite of ethanol. Again, gets us back to the ethanol. And number 3, by stimulating the hedonic pathway of the brain, both directly and indirectly. Check this out. This is the most important part right here, straight up. Because people say, can you really be addicted to food? I mean, can sugar really affect you? Because can't you just stop? And why can't you just stop? Have you looked at yourself? You're fat. Like, how can you even be hungry? Fat people get hungry. They're wearing the weight. It doesn't mean their stomach has any food in it. But anyway, let's get back to the point. Here's what he said. Fructose creates habituation. That means habit forming, right? And possibly dependence. High addiction. Also paralleling ethanol, which is alcohol. Same way an alcoholic is affected. In conclusion, thus fructose introduces alterations in both hepatic, which is the liver metabolism, and central nervous system energy signaling, leading to a vicious cycle of excessive consumption and disease consistent with metabolic syndrome. Like when I would tell you guys I would consume 6,500 or 10,000 calories in a day and literally ask myself, did I eat today? My stomach never informed my brain. My brain never registered it because my body was so out of whack, it honestly didn't know. None of my signals were saying, yeah, you just ate enough for a small country. Yeah, you're handled. So I so get this in a really tragic way. Analogous to ethanol. Oh, wait, am I on that part? No. Okay, so it was saying leading to a vicious cycle of excessive consumption and disease consistent with metabolic syndrome. I still get that. On a societal level, like what is society supposed to do about the problem? The treatment of fructose as a commodity exhibits marked similarities to ethanol. Like how they promote this is very similar to how they promote alcohol. And that's no doubt. And we watch 1 hour of commercials in the evening, and you're going to see people basically having orgasms or making love to their dang, food. And alcohol being the life of every party, and alcohol being the third person in the car, and alcohol being, the significant other at the dinner table. I mean, it's astounding how they market these two things. So analogous to ethanol, societal efforts to reduce fructose consumption will likely be necessary to combat the obesity epidemic. They're saying they literally, like, there's just no way. We can't just deal with obesity. You can't just tell a fat person to stop eating. You have to actually deal with the poison being put in the foods that people consume every single day. And to a small degree, they have reduced the use of corn syrup, but in removing corn syrup, they've come up with 15 other fake names that have the same fructose in it, right? Okay, so fructose versus alcohol, the dangerous metabolic cascade. And when I think of cascades, I think of like a waterfall, right? So it says, after consuming an alcoholic beverage, check this out. Here's the whole breakdown. After consuming one alcoholic beverage, 10% of the ethanol gets broken down by the stomach and intestines as a first pass effect. Okay, great. 10%. Another 10% is metabolized by your brain and other organs. Cool. We've handled 20% of that drink. The fact that ethanol is partially metabolized in your brain is the reason that you experience that familiar buzz, dude, right? But the remaining 80% hits your liver, where it must be broken down. That's why that liver is being overtaxed and wreaking havoc upon it, right? This metabolic cascade can be summarized as follows in ethanol metabolism. Number 1, your liver converts ethanol to aldehydes, which produce free radicals that damage proteins in your liver. Number 2, some of these aldehydes are converted to glucose. Fast burning, used by every cell, yay, but a large amount of excess citrate is formed in the process, stimulating junk chemicals that result in free fatty acids. And even smaller, denser LDL, which is the bad cholesterol particles, stimulate arterial plaque formation, so start clogging the arteries. And triglycerides. So the example is 120 calorie intake, and a standard beer is 150, and it's about 12 ounces, a cup and a half. 120 calorie intake of ethanol produces the VLDL, which are the smaller dense LDLs, that are transported to your fat cells and contribute to obesity or plaque formation. This is what leads to the dyslipidemia of alcoholism. Number 3, the resulting lipids, together with the ethanol, upregulate enzymes that induce an inflammatory cascade, which in turn causes hepatic, remember that's the liver, insulin resistance, liver inflammation, and cirrhosis of the liver. Fat globules accumulate in your liver as well, which can lead to fatty liver disease. Again, this used to be unique to alcohol. Now it's just sugar consumption, toxic sugar, fructose. When I was younger, I was told fructose is fruit sugar and the better sugar to have. Free fatty acids leave your liver and cause your skeletal muscles to become insulin resistant. This is a worse form of insulin resistance than hepatic insulin resistance and can lead to type 2 diabetes. This is a worse form of insulin resistance than hepatic. It can cause your skeletal muscles to become insulin resistant. Why was I thinking? So those are all the muscles that actually line the skeleton, right? After a 120 calorie bolus dose of ethanol, a large fraction, about 40 of the calories, can contribute to disease. In nearly every way, fructose is metabolized the same way as ethanol, creating the same cascade of damaging effects in your body. When you consume fructose, 100% of it goes directly to your liver to be metabolized. This is why it is a hepatotoxin when consumed excessively. It overloads your liver. Fructose metabolism creates the following adverse effects. This is why, I don't know, no one really ever asked about my liver, but I kind of remember, some of my numbers were really off, and I was like, that's impossible. I don't even drink. I haven't had a drink in, almost 30 years. It wasn't about drinking. It's all the sugar I was consuming. I'm blessed. I am safe in this body. Wellness is mine. God has a plan. I'm turning it around. Okay, fructose metabolism. Fructose is immediately converted by your liver to fructose 1-phosphate, depleting your liver cells of phosphates. The above process produces waste products in the form of uric acid. Uric acid blocks an enzyme that makes nitric acid. Nitric acid is your body's natural blood pressure regulator, especially important for the full dilation of the lining of the arteries known as the endothelium. So, when it is blocked, your arteries don't fully dilate, creating a greater burden on your heart and raising your blood pressure, leading to chronic hypertension. Oh, so many people have that. So many people. Elevated uric acid levels can deposit into soft tissues, causing painful inflammation, especially gout. Oh, I've been hearing about gout a lot. God, that was a big deal right there, wasn't it? Almost all of the F1P, which is that fructose 1-phosphate, right, is turned into pyruvate, ending up in the citrate, citrate, which results in de novo lipogenesis, which is the end products of which all the FFAs, VLDLs, all that bad cholesterol that I talked about, and triglycerides. The result is hypolipidemia. Fructose stimulates the G3P, which is the activated glycerol, which is the crucial molecule for turning FFAs into triglycerides within our fat cells. The rate of deposition of fat into fat cells is dependent on the presence of the G3P. The more G3P that is available, the more fat that is deposited. I must have had a lot of it. Fructose is the carbohydrate most efficiently converted into G3P. I used to eat fructose intentionally. They told me it was the better one. They said it was just a fruit sugar. Like, what was the big deal? In other words, fructose is the most lipophilic or fat-producing carbohydrate. I appreciate this article. This is a wake-up call for me. Wow. FFAs are exported from your liver and taken up in the skeletal muscle, causing skeletal muscle insulin resistance. Some of the FFAs stay in your liver, leading to fat droplet accumulation, hepatic insulin resistance, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Insulin resistance stresses your pancreas, which pumps out more insulin in response to rising blood sugar, as your cells are unable to get the sugar out of your bloodstream, and this can progress to type 2 diabetes. As with a bolus dose of ethanol, 120 calorie bolus of fructose results in a large fraction, again about 40 calories, that directly contributes to disease. Wow. If you can see by comparing this metabolism of fructose with metabolism of ethanol, that they are very similar. In fact, when you compare the metabolism of 150 calories of soda with 150 calories of beer, 12 ounces each, about 90 calories reach the liver in either case. Fructose causes most of the same toxic effects as ethanol because both come from sugar fermentation. Both ethanol metabolism and fructose metabolism lead to visceral adiposity. Adiposity? I've heard that word. I know it's from adipose tissue, but adiposity, which is belly fat, a fancy way of saying belly fat, insulin resistance, and metabolic syndrome. Guilty as charged, man. I'm so lucky that mine wasn't a gazillion times worse. It could have been. Dr. Lucid uses the term liver toxin to describe fructose, but he's also careful to note that it's not fructose per se that is toxic. There are instances when your body can use it, e.g. post-workout or fasting-induced glycogen depletion. The problem is that most people consume so much of it that it turns toxic by virtue of the fact that your body cannot use the excess. It simply gets shuttled into your cells and stored as fat. So it's the massive doses you're exposed to that make it dangerous. I agree. When you compare the health outcomes of fructose versus alcohol consumption, you end up seeing a very similar pattern. The diseases they cause are virtually identical. Let me repeat that. When you compare the health outcomes of fructose versus alcohol consumption, you end up seeing a very familiar pattern. The diseases they cause are virtually identical. So one, for chronic ethanol consumption, so when you drink too much, hypertension, cardiomyopathy, wow, that's where the muscle of the heart starts to break down, dyslipidemia, pancreatitis, obesity, hepatic dysfunction, which is the liver, fetal alcohol syndrome, and addiction. Chronic fructose consumption is hypertension, myocardial infarction, which is another heart ailment, dyslipidemia, pancreatitis, obesity, hepatic dysfunction, fetal insulin resistance, the baby already being born insulin resistant. And that's the huge rise in diabetes and things in our country. And habituation, so habit forming, if not addiction. Wow. In reality, the scientific literature shows that fructose may be far worse than ethanol in its wide-ranging negative impact on the human health. There are at least 70 adverse health conditions that have been linked to fructose consumption beyond those 8 listed above. Wow. I'm going to have to do part 2, my friends, because this is getting way too long. Yes, I will end up doing part 2, which is a neat trick because this already was part 2. Do we push it? No one's going to stay till the end. No one is going to stay till the end, Juliana. It's true. I'm going to have to end it here. All right, my friends. I will do 2A and 2B. How's that? All right. It's all tragic already. And it's okay. I forgive myself. I love myself. My body has all the potential in the world. I am far more blessed than many. And for that, I'll accept. But man, what a reality check. I'd love to know what you thought. Like if you like. Join us if you haven't subscribed. Let me know in the comments below. Were you thinking fructose was fruit sugar, so it was a healthier sugar? Or did you know it was all nonsense? I'd love to know. All right. Until we talk again, I'm counting my blessings and know that you are blessed. That's a scary article for me. It is too real.